welcome back to my channel. I am so excited. It is finally fall and I cannot wait for Halloween and all of the makeup tutorials I will be making. I am so pumped. So I hope you guys are excited too. If you are new to my channel, my name is Mackenzie and I love makeup and Disney, and today I am really excited because I'm going to tell you guys all about my Disney story. So it's going to be about how much I loved Disney as a kid, what that looked like for me, what it was like for me being a cast member, and even why I left the company. So I hope you guys are really excited to hear my Disney story, and let's get started. So this story starts when I was just 2 years old. My very first memory was when I was 2. I remembered our cousins were over for some reason and I was asking her like, oh, what are we gonna watch? And she's just like, oh, you'll see, just wait. And I remember her, us sitting down on the carpet watching the movie, and I remember seeing all these dolphins and I was really excited. I was like, oh, it's a fishy movie. And you see the dolphins and you see a ship and then you see like these silhouettes swimming through the water and you're just like, what's that? And then all of a sudden you see all these merpeople. That was like the moment I fell in love with mermaids. I have loved mermaids since I was 2. My favorite movie in the entire world is The Little Mermaid. She was just my favorite and I just loved mermaids. I grew up thinking if I was a mermaid I would have a pink tail just like her sister Alana. It was love at first sight. So I've always loved The Little Mermaid. My other 2 top favorite Disney characters when I was a kid were Belle and Jasmine. Now I would have to say it would probably be Rapunzel as well, and Anna. I think they're both awesome. But my top 3 were Ariel, Belle, and Jasmine. And yeah, I just loved mermaids when I was a kid. I was that kid that had princess parties, of course. And then when I was doing this little ballet production at my elementary school, I somehow got to be Ariel, which was fantastic. I just love Ariel. So I even had like a mermaid room. Like I had a huge mural of me as a mermaid on my room, or in my room on my wall, and I just recently painted over it like within the past like 6 months. I was born in California, so I grew up having annual passes to Disneyland when I was a little kid, and we would go there apparently like it was the park. It was just a really magical place and it was fun and it was a great place to spend time with family. Some of my favorite memories with my family have been at Disneyland. I just love all the rides. I think my favorite ride has got to be Splash Mountain for sure, and I grew up of course loving Disney movies. I am obsessed with Disney movies. There's very few Disney movies I haven't seen. Again, obviously Little Mermaid's my favorite. But yeah, I just think there's something about Disney movies that just gives you hope and teaches you to dream. I've always loved Disney because it just gives you that ability to have dreams. It just shows you these characters who triumph over all these obstacles and still like achieve their dreams, and they're also driven and dedicated. I know a lot of people these days will just kind of bash on Disney movies and say, oh, they're sexist or they're terrible, but honestly I think they're all pretty good movies because they show you that like you have the ability to change where you're at. You have the ability to pursue your dreams. No one's holding you back but yourself, and I've always loved that. So that was kind of me growing up as a kid. My family all loved Disney a ton. I got that love from my mom and my dad. My mom worked for the company at the corporation, so I have tons of like old like 80s Disney stuff, and it's so cool. And my grandpa also played in the band on opening day, and when we go to the parks as a kid, we'd always go with my family, and then also my uncle as well. So my dad's best friend, he was like an uncle to us because we would always go to the parks with him and he would fly with us, and it was just really special. It was just a very special place. So obviously my dream job since I was a kid was to be a Disney princess. I remember when I would go to the parks and my mom would like secretly like ask the character attendant like, oh, like how old do they have to be? And they would look at me and be like, oh, how old is she? And they'd say like, oh, 15, and they'd be like, oh, she's not old enough yet. But they would tell her, oh, go look online, that's where they show the auditions. So it's something I've always wanted to do. I just couldn't figure out how to fit it in my schedule. When I was in high school applying for colleges, I really wanted to go to a Zoo Pacific. That's a college in California. It's maybe about half an hour to an hour away from Disneyland. And I wanted to go there for a lot of reasons, but one reason I wanted to go there is so I could work as a cast member too. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a great idea. I could go to school in California and I could be a cast member seasonally, and that would just be the perfect ideal world. And then I decided to not move away far from home. I moved like maybe 20 minutes away from home and went to college in Washington State, and that dream died. But I still really wanted to go. So when I was in when I was in college, I had heard about the Disney College Program, and I thought this is perfect because I could still go to Disney and I could come back to college, like it works. But then it was really hard for me because every time I wanted to apply or the applications came out, I was like, oh, this doesn't fit into my schedule because I would miss all these things. Like in the fall, you would miss football. I just didn't want to miss any college football or anything fun that happened in the fall. And in the spring, we do a lot of events with my sorority, and I was like, oh man, I would be so bummed if I went there and missed out on all these different things. So for me, I always really wanted to do it, but then I just couldn't figure out how to work in my schedule. Senior year rolls around. At this point, I've kind of given up the idea of being a part of the college program. And right before school starts, my family had some stuff happen. My dad, basically, he was going for a run and something didn't feel right. And come to find out later, one of his like arteries was really, really clogged, and they had to put like a stent in. So for me, the school year was about to start, and then all that happened, and I knew that there was nothing life threatening, but it was still kind of scary for that to happen in my family. Growing up, I really didn't have anything major happen. I think the biggest thing that ever happened was like my grandpa died when I was in high school, and I was really close to him. So that was really hard. But other than that, like I've never had anything like losing a parent or anything like that happen. So that was it wasn't scary for me, but it would definitely open my eyes like, oh my gosh, like I guess my parents are getting to the age where they could start to have health problems, and that is very concerning. So that happened, and this is about almost 3 years ago now, and within a week, it was September 17th, 2014, so roughly about 3 years ago, I got some of the absolute worst news of my life. My mom called me, and she just sounded really upset, and I couldn't understand what was wrong, and I kept asking like, is dad okay? Because my dad just had those issues. She's like, oh, dad's fine. She's like, I just need you to come home. And I'm like, okay, well, I can figure out like, well, you need to come home this afternoon. I'm like, okay. So me and my brother are driving home, and she wouldn't tell us what was up. We kept trying to ask her like, what's going on? So we get home, and we go sit on the couch, and my mom and dad do not look good. They look very upset. And they sit us down, they're like, okay, so there's something we need to tell you. You know, there were some people over at your uncle's house today, and they had found a body. Basically, long story short, they found out that the homeless kid that he had taken in had murdered him. And it was extremely hard. And it was one of those things where I had grown up in this perfect little bubble of a life, and I just thought like, oh, if you're a good person, nothing bad will ever happen to you. And that just really, really rocked my world, and it still does apparently. And that was extremely hard for me senior year because everyone's my age, everyone's 21 or 22, they're going to bars, they're having fun. Like I couldn't relate to anyone my age anymore. And it was extremely difficult because very few people my age have to come to this realization. If you lose a parent or you lose someone close to you, you understand that how fragile life is. And I feel like it was a hard lesson I had to learn, but now I'm grateful for it because I can appreciate things so much more now because I'm not just thinking, oh, I'll live forever, everyone's gonna live forever. Like it made me realize like I'm not guaranteed any time with my family or my friends, or I'm not guaranteed tomorrow. You're really not. Like something sudden could happen. And so it made me just realize like how much I need to love people, and that just became a big passion for me senior year, is just really cutting out, I guess, the bull and just really being genuine and just speaking my mind and not just sugarcoating things. So that happened, and it was really hard for me to relate to other people just because I was still grappling with that. And senior year, around January, we had this new roommate move in, and her name is Mandy, and she had done the Disney College Program, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Like I always wanted to do that. I never got the chance to do that, but that's really cool. And she was talking to me about her experience with it, and it just made me wish I had the chance to do that. She was like, well, you still could. Like there's applications coming out. They come out in January, so you could still do it. I'm like, yeah, like it was something I kind of gave up on at that point. I was just like, I was in a very different place in my life than I was even 6 months before that all happened. So I was just not really thinking that was something I wanted to do. At this point, I was really depressed, and I had my relationship with God was really rocky because I was still grappling with like the whole idea of like, how could a good God allow these types of things to happen? I remember going on a run, and in that run I was just having some me time. I was listening to worship music, and I remember just praying, and I hadn't really prayed in a while, but I was just like, you know what, God, like, I feel like I'm in a rut right now. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing after college. I don't know what I'm doing for the rest of my life. Like, I just feel like I really need some guidance, and I need you to give me some really bold guidance. Like, if you want me to do something, I really need to hear it loud and clear. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be doing. So I go on the run, and on the run, I just kept thinking over and over again, like, I should apply for the program, but I was just thinking, no, like, I don't really have the time to do that. But I got home, and my friend Mandy, who was my roommate Mandy, was like, oh my gosh, you'll never guess what happened. And I'm like, what happened? She's like, the applications for the college program just came out today. And I'm like, well, that's a weird coincidence. And she's like, that's not even the best part. I'm like, what's the best part? She's like, they're having auditions for character performers in Seattle, and they like never do that. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm applying for the college program and I'm going to the audition. So I was like, well, I guess it doesn't hurt to try. So I applied online, and then about a week later I got a phone interview, and then I think like a couple weeks after that I did the phone interview, and they were asking me like, what would you want to do? And I did makeup, so I thought Bibbidi Boppidi Boutique would be fun, and I also loved acting. I really wanted to be a character performer, but I thought, you know, the character attendant role might be fun too. So they were asking me lots of questions about that, how I would respond to things and like situations as a character attendant. And I felt like it went really, really well. I tried to be the most happy and Disney-esque cast performer ever. I was just really trying to sell myself, and actually, apparently it worked. And about I want to say a month or so later, I got an email back saying, congratulations, you were selected as the character attendant role for the fall college program. So for that, if you want to be a performer, you have to go to the audition. So they can't just like give you the performer role over the phone. You have to go to the audition. So I went to the audition, and I made it through the first round, and I made it through the second round, and then I didn't get it. And I was so bummed, and I almost didn't even do the college program because I'm like, oh, I just wanted to be a performer. Like, that's gonna really suck. But I was like, you know what? Like, you have the opportunity to go to Disney World and work as a cast member, and it's not forever. It's only for 4 months. So if you absolutely hate it, like, you can just come home. It's fine. So I was like, sure, why not? So I packed up all my things and moved to Florida. And the best part too was that my roommate Mandy also got into the college program, so she was going to be my roommate in Florida, which was a huge help because I am an introvert and I'm a homebody, and having someone from home just made it so much easier for me. The idea of moving across the country was so scary, and it was still scary. Like, there were days where I was just missed my home, and I missed my boyfriend, I missed my friends, and it was really, really hard. But just having that person there who knew my boyfriend, who knew my family, she knew my friends, she knew where I went to school, it was just so nice, and it was just that piece of home. It was a hard transition, but she was there, and I was so excited. But I did notice when I started there that, again, the whole reason I even bring up the whole thing what happened with my uncle is because I see things a lot differently than most people my age would. And so that really did affect my college program because there was a lot of like 18 and 19-year-olds. They were really young. I would definitely say they were either like freshmen or sophomores in college. I was one of the older people there, and the things that they like to do were different than the things I like to do, so I didn't really get to know a ton of other people outside my living situation, whereas other people did, and they had a great time getting to know and make friends. But my friends I made are wonderful. I had to like interrupt my training to go home. It was the 1-year anniversary of my uncle passing away, and it was also my boyfriend's birthday. So I was able to like take a break from my training and fly home really quick and fly back. But because I did that, I had to take my like second to last training day differently. And I was with this group of 3 girls, and we ended up becoming such great friends. And they were some of my most best friends, and I love them. And it was just so cool that like because I did that, I just happened to meet these people and they were just like my best friends while I was there. College program, I was a character attendant, and at first I didn't want to do it, but then once I got the hang of it, I loved it. It was so much fun. I love telling stories, so it was so fun to be with different characters, and it just really, you mixed it up a lot, and because you're in the college program, you get kind of the last shifts that no one wants, but you also get the more like random shifts, like for the Halloween parties or the Christmas parties. So I got to do all these different Halloween parties, and it was so much fun because I got to work with these weird characters, and it was just so much fun. Like, it was truly a childhood dream come true, because at this point, like, I had totally given up on doing the college program. I'm like, I won't be able to do that while I'm in college, but since I applied while I was still in college, I had graduated, so I didn't have to worry about classes, and it was just the most amazing opportunity, and I absolutely loved it. I loved all my character attendant friends. We all got super close, and it was just a really fun community, and I 100% do not regret anything. Like, I do not regret my time there whatsoever. I loved it. I still had this voice inside me though saying like, oh my gosh, you should be a character performer. So I went to one more college program audition, and I went to the second round, and then I got cut, and then I went to a Tokyo, I think, audition, or Shanghai, and I got cut like the first round because that audition is like on steroids. Like, you have to be a really good dancer, and people brought headshots and resumes, and I didn't have anything. So I was like, well, this is fun. At least I tried it, and at least I saw what it was like. But then there was one more audition, and I almost didn't go because I'm like, well, what's that gonna look like? Because I'm such a homebody, and change just freaks me out. And so I'm like, how would that even work? Like, I would have to like find an apartment and ship my car out, and there's too much things that like would have to happen for me to like get this job, that it just doesn't make any sense for me. So I almost didn't go, but I was like, you know what? Like, why not? Why not just go? Just go to the audition, see what happens. So I go to the character lookalike audition for full-time and part-time performers. And I get there, and there's just tons and tons of girls. There's probably about 400 girls, which isn't even like the most you would see. Sometimes you would see like 700, but there's still like, you know, like 400 girls there. There's a lot of people. So it takes a long time for me to like go in on the first round, and I'm in a room of 30 other women, and they line you up in rows of 10, and I think I was like the third person on the right hand side, and they are playing Disney music, and you're just standing there and you're smiling like you were about ready to be Miss America. Like, you were smiling like just so excited and happy, because like if you think about it, for the job, like they want to see you smiling. So some people aren't even smiling, some people are just kind of standing there like, but I'm just standing there, I'm trying to stand like tall and confident and smiling, and the casting director kept like looking back at me, and I'm like, maybe I'm doing a good job, I don't know. But when she was going through at the very end, she said row by row, and then you switch rows. So there's 30 people, there's 3 rows of 10, and at the very end, in that room of 30 people, she called 2 numbers, and one of them happened to be mine. But I was like, oh my gosh, like what are the chances? I was picked out of like 2 people out of 30. That's like less than 10% of the room. So I was like, shoot, like that was a huge cut. And then after that, we went to like this dancing animation portion for the second round, and I was in a room with like 10 girls or so. So I do the animation and I do the movement portion. So we're like, okay, so we decided we're gonna keep all of you guys into the third round. I'm like, oh, there's a round 3? Like, I've never made it this far before, and I was so excited. And I'm like just sitting there like just pinching myself like, this isn't real. This is not a real situation. Like, this is not happening right now. And I could have died happy just from that. Like, that was a fantastic experience, and I was on cloud 9. It was so magical. And then I got an email saying like later, like, oh, you've been put in the pool and like you've been selected. And I was just so excited, but then I'm like, shoot, okay, so now I've done this. Like, I just went to the audition just seeing what would happen, and now I'm like, great, well, now what am I gonna do? Because I genuinely could not decide. I was 50-50 on accepting it or not accepting it, because the idea of living in Florida full-time, like living in an apartment and having my car there and like living there for an unset amount of time was just so scary. It was so scary, and I just didn't know if that was something I really wanted to do. So I really prayed about it. I thought about it. I weighed the pros and cons, and I was like, is this something I really want to do? And I almost didn't do it just because I was really afraid of the idea, like what would happen. But I just felt like God was telling me, like, Mackenzie, like, you need to do this. Like, I would forever regret it if I did not do it. Like, that was my biggest dream as a 5-year-old or a 2-year-old or like even a 17-year-old. Like, that was my biggest dream. And it's like, if I didn't do it, like, I would forever regret that. So even if I did it for a couple months and I hated it and I just came home, like, I knew I had to do it. So it just was so evident to me, like, this is what I'm supposed to do right now. And I just loved my job. I loved it so much. And I now know that, like, I don't care what job I have as long as I am loving people. Like, it was just such a cool experience because I had the amazing opportunity to just love people and hug them and tell them that they're beautiful and that they are so loved. And it was just so, it was an amazing job. And I ended up living, it worked out perfectly. I was able to live with one of my friends I met as a character attendant. Her roommate happened to move out. It was this beautiful apartment and I loved living in Florida. You know, the weather was really fun too. I loved thunder and lightning and I just absolutely loved my time there. I made some really amazing friends and I just felt like I was really living into what God wanted for me. I felt like I was living into my purpose. Our lease was up in June, so I told myself, you know, I gave myself 6 months. I wasn't relocated, so I didn't have to sign a contract with Disney or anything like that, so I could leave whenever I wanted to. So at this point, I had been there for about 4 months with the college program, and then with being there for 6 months, if I chose to leave in June, that would mean I would be there for 10 months. So I wasn't even there for a year. But by the time that June came around, I just turned 23 and I love my job, but I would think about, like, what do I see myself doing? Like, do I see myself staying here forever? No, I love Florida, it's fun, but I don't really see myself living here. The culture is just so different than what I'm used to, and living there really made me appreciate the Northwest. Like, there's so many things you can do. You get to enjoy the lakes, and then there's like the hiking and the skiing in the wintertime. Like, there's just so much to love and enjoy about the Northwest. And I really missed it, and I felt like my heart was being pulled back there. And so that was one thing. And then working for Disney is hard too as a performer because you're not guaranteed anything. Like, you're guaranteed like your job, but like eventually they'll age you out, and so you don't know when. Like, I had a friend who was aged out basically at the age of 24, and I knew people there who were 32 who were still working as the look-alike characters. So you just don't really know. It's not really in your control, and I didn't want to wake up one day at 25 and all of a sudden not have a job and have never worked anywhere else, have this degree but not have any other work experience, and have a hard time finding a job or not know what I'm doing with my life. Like, that really scared me. And a lot of the people there too, that is a great job for someone who is, I want to say 19 or 20. You can still do that job at 27, but you're not guaranteed any other opportunities. There's some girls that come in with 3 characters, and there's girls who've been there for 5 years and they only have 1 character. So you're not guaranteed any opportunities. And the idea of staying there for like 5 years and not doing anything else, like, I would have loved that, but like, I wouldn't have been happy in that. And so I finally got to the point where, again, because of what had happened to me when I was in college, it just made me really think about, like, where do I see myself in the long term? Like, this is so much fun in the short term, but how will this affect me in the long term? And it was not an easy decision to make because I loved my job. And that was the hardest thing, because I left my job while I still loved it. But I'm also kind of glad that happened because I can still, like, you guys can tell, like, I still love my job. Like, even when I talk about in videos, there's so many of you that say, like, wow, it's so cool to see you being so positive and excited about your job, because I still loved it. I left it while I loved it. And it wasn't an easy decision to make, but it was an adult decision. It was a decision that I thought would be best for me and my future and my career. And I wasn't sure what that was yet, but I knew that it wasn't in Florida. And that was really, really hard to move home from. But it's really special, and it's something that will always be special to me, and it's really fun for me to make these videos and talk to you guys about it, because I feel like I'm still keeping all of that alive, and it's just so cool for me to be able to do that. So anyways, that's my Disney story. Now making videos for you guys all about Disney and what it was like working there and sharing fun experiences. And I'm going back to visit in the fall, and I'm so excited. I can't wait to see my friends again. I think I'm going to go to a Halloween party, and I'm so excited to share with you guys my costume. I'm not going to yet, but I'm really excited to tell you guys what my costume is going to be. And yeah, so that's my experience. I always love hearing your guys' Disney stories and how Disney has impacted you. And so I thought it'd be fun to share my story and all about how Disney has shaped my life and how the movies have meant so much to me. And honestly, like, it's crazy. It's really crazy for me to think about this 2-year-old who had this dream and she just wanted more than anything. And then just to see how things winded out, it's just really cool for me. It's really cool, and it kind of gives me a glimpse of like how God sees our lives. And it's like, it's just cool to see kind of like the big picture and be like, wow, like here's this kid who just has this dream, and then like she has no idea so many years later, like she'll actually get to do it. And I know that doesn't always happen, and I just feel so thankful that I had the opportunity, because I know most people don't even have the opportunity at all, and I am so thankful. And it was such a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful experience. So yeah, that was just a brief synopsis. That was like the Spark Notes version, but I still feel like it was really long, of my Disney experience and what my Disney story was. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!